Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, supporters of the Leave Means Leave campaign have set off on what they're calling a Brexit betrayal march. They're being led by former UKIP leader Nigel Farage, along with Labour MP Kate Hoey and her Conservative colleague Andrea Jenkins. There were scuffles with Remain campaigners as the travellers embarked on the start of a 270-mile journey from Sunderland to Westminster. Mr Farage says he won't be completing the whole route. Jane Dodge reports.
Bleak and unforgiving, the landscape of the northeast coast reflected the mood of the marchers today. This is Brexit territory and people are angry. They're calling it the Jarrow March for Brexit. 82 years ago they marched to London to demand jobs. Today they're demanding politicians honour the result of the referendum. But not everyone agreed with the comparison.
You lot are betraying the Jarrow marchers. They did this journey for real, not on a bus tour.
He may have arrived in a bus, but Nigel Farage insisted he was going all the way on foot. Well, from Sunderland to Hartlepool at least. Channel 4 News was keen to find out who was footing the bill for the two-week-long march. Was it the millionaire Aaron Banks, currently being investigated by police about the source of his political donations?
Mr Farage, who's paying for this today?
It doesn't cost much to walk the coastal path, you know.
Well, we're trying to get an interview with Mr Farage, but as you can see it's quite chaotic, lots of shoving and pushing. Keen to ask him about Mr Aaron Banks, who's been funding his political activities for the last few years. So we'll have another go.
We need to keep moving. Keep a walkway, please.
How did you get here?
We drove up this morning.
Not by private jet?
No.
You have liked the odd private jet, haven't you, in the past?
Well, unlike normal human beings, I work 20-hour days, and sometimes there's no other way of doing it.
And Mr Banks has paid for those private jets, hasn't he, in the past?
I don't know, has he?
Will you be travelling back by private jet?
Right, we're done.
They may have been off the beaten track, but that didn't stop Remainers driving their message home nearby. The founder of Leave Means Leave wasn't letting the weather or the opposition dampen his spirits.
This is delightful. There's probably 1,000 people here today in this weather. That's incredible. And what it shows actually is true grit.
By our count, it was closer to a few hundred.
And we will get to Westminster.
MPs Kate Hoey and Andrea Jenkins made an appearance on top of a bus. Nigel Farage was with his trademark pint in Hartlepool by the afternoon. His supporters insisting he'd walked all the way. His last stop, perhaps chosen with recent events in Westminster in mind.
The pro-Remain MP Nick Bowles has quit his local Conservative association following a rift over his stance on Brexit. The former minister wants a closer Norway-style relationship with Europe after leaving the EU. He had been facing threats of deselection by local activists in the Grantham and Stamford Conservative Association. He says he will continue to serve as a Tory MP. Now, the Transport Secretary, Chris Grayling, is under fire again after it emerged the government could have to pay tens of millions of pounds extra for ferries from France, even if there's a delay to a no-deal Brexit and we don't need to relieve pressure on Dover. Contracts with Brittany Ferries and DFDS to ship lorry loads of vital supplies like medicines don't provide for a change in the start date in the event of Article 50 being extended. The government says it will try to recoup some of the cash by selling empty spots on ferries. Jane Death has more.
Brexit is not full steam ahead yet, but the cost of contingency ferries looks likely to go up by tens of millions of pounds. Brittany Ferries has forked out on a new summer timetable with 50% more freight capacity, ready for the 29th of March. If there's a delay in a no-deal exit from the EU, it's reported the government could have to pay up to £28 million extra to cover what the firms have spent finding extra space on ferries.
We cannot change the schedules now. As soon as we signed the contract with the Department for Transport, we were committed to the additional sailings, we were committed to the new timetable. Something like 20,000 bookings have been changed. We can't go back from that. We can't go back from the arrangements that we've made with our port partners to ensure that they are geared up and ready for March the 29th.
Brittany Ferries has confirmed to Channel 4 News that unless there's a Brexit deal, the extra ferries will sail from the 29th of March, even if we haven't left the EU yet. The government says it will sell any unused capacity, but the company says there may be some half-empty ferries. The government says the ferry contracts didn't cover what would happen if a no deal came later than the 29th, because paying for the companies to be flexible on a start date would have been really expensive. But Labour is calling this another costly mistake by Transport Secretary Chris Grayling, after the deal with Seaborne Freight, which had no ferries, sank. And Eurotunnel, which did have experience but wasn't considered, had to be paid £33 million in compensation.
This is Chris Grayling again, I'm afraid. Why is he still in post? This man should not be allowed anywhere near ministerial office ever again. He should be removed now.
But one Conservative MP says those who are worried about the cost of the delay should have voted for Theresa May's Brexit deal when they had the chance.
Those who've created this situation are probably chucking pies at Chris Grayling right now, but in fact the reason we've got an additional charge in place is because these people have failed to hold their nerve, get us out by the end of March, and of course the delay. So for them to actually be critical when it's their fault would actually be complete hypocrisy.
Theresa May will try again to get her Brexit deal through, but it could be that ship has sailed. So as long as no deal's on the table, the ferry contract, however expensive, stays on the table too.